my friends are simps.
A wee while back, I put together a stupid video talking about my struggles with trying to talk to camera like this, specifically discussing the elaborate solutions that I had tried in order to overcome such difficulties. To be honest, I didn't really think that was an especially interesting video when I made it, but for some reason it generated way more views than I had anticipated. I suspect in hindsight that this is partly maybe because other people out there have also got similar feelings of inadequacy. Now, without repeating everything that I said in that previous video, the gist was that it can be incredibly challenging to strike a balance between speaking naturally while on camera and also trying to remember everything that you have or want to say. If you've got a script, that is one option, but trying to read that subtly whilst talking directly to the lens can be extremely difficult indeed. This is something that was actually becoming a real pain in the arse, because it meant that I was wasting hours and hours recording videos where I was tripping over my own words and having to do endless retakes. In some ways this could be pretty amusing and allowed me to release a blooper reel a couple of years ago where I basically just swore at the camera for 3 minutes or something. But in general, it was just a real drag. To be honest, I would much rather have spent the time making music or taking pictures or something like that, anything at all really, instead of getting stuck in a loop recording a fucking talking headshot. The idea that I came up with last time to address this was to install a small rig cage onto my Sony a7 IV, which then let me mount a tablet holder on top of it. The general idea being that I could then have notes kind of in my line of sight and reduce the amount of duplicate takes I had to go over and over and, over ad nauseam. Unfortunately, in practice, this didn't work out too well because the tablet was positioned in a way that I was always having to look up above the lens or to the right or down below, and whenever I put it, it just didn't feel or look natural at all. In fact, it was just as bad as having a laptop or something off to the side or, sitting down here whilst I was trying to do the video. So that was a nice waste of money. Now, in the comments of the previous video, a number of people helpfully suggested that using some kind of autocue system. This is the approach that they have on TV, where a special piece of one-way glass is placed in front of the camera lens, with the words that are to be spoken reflected or displayed onto them. Because of the way it works, which I guess is some kind of physics shite, I was never any good at that in high school, the camera doesn't pick up or record the words that are being displayed on the screen. That means that you can look directly at the lens and just read the script, which then looks far more natural in practice. At least theoretically anyway. It should be much better than having notes that you have to keep referring to. Now, whilst I was familiar with this practice, of course, I didn't realise that there were now affordable consumer options available. Taking a look around, it seemed like the cheapest at the time was about 80 to 90 quid. And to be honest, I wasn't quite prepared to spend that money just yet, especially not since I just wasted all of this cash on a half-rig cage for my bloody camera and a mount and all that kind of crap. Recently, after trying and failing yet again to get a good video take and getting stuck having to do, shot after shot, I decided to take the plunge on an autocue, and to my delight, discovered that there was one on sale on Amazon for 50 Great British pounds, which seemed like it would hopefully do the trick. The general idea with this type of kit is that you have the reflective glass, which comes with some sort of angled frame. The one that I got had a base plate thing which you fixed this onto, as well as your camera. Included is a tablet or a phone holder that screws onto the front, and you mount all of this on a tripod and then display your script or notes on the tablet or mobile phone if that's more your speed. And Bob's your uncle. I'll link the specific model I got below or something like that, but there are a bunch of similar ones out there, and to be honest, you'd be best to check which particular model meets your own needs best if you're interested in doing something similar, especially if you're prepared to spend a bit more money than I was. This is not a sponsored video by any means. They haven't paid me to say this or anything, although I guess they probably should have, actually. Fuck, I've missed a trick. Now, I should say that this is not a perfect setup. For a start, you need a decent enough tripod to hold the weight of this whole contraption. I didn't want to sacrifice one of my better ones, which was a bit of a mistake. I tried to use a more heavy-duty lighting stand, but the fixtures weren't long enough to mount it, annoyingly. So I've ended up with a cheaper one, and I'm not convinced about its structural integrity. On top of this, the instructions said that I had to place the reflective glass into the frame with the sticker facing towards the camera. However, both sides on my kit had a sticker, one green and one red, so I don't really know what the correct way around was meant to be. I tried both ways and it didn't seem to make any difference, so fuck it. I've just stuck it in whatever way, and it's probably in the wrong way, but it seems to work. Another annoying thing is that the only tablet I have is a Kindle Fire, which is just too big to fit into any of the holders that I've found online, and definitely bigger than the one that came with this cheap piece of shit. But fortunately, I was able to reuse the one that I had bought earlier to mount on top of my camera for my earlier attempt. I couldn't have it in landscape, so I've got to have it in portrait, but it works fine, and you know, it's serviceable at least. Now, there's a couple of other important things to note. First of all, there's an included blackout hood that goes around the lens. It was included in this kit, and I think a lot of other similar ones. I thought I could get away without using this, but it turns out it's actually pretty important, as it avoids reflections from the rear of the glass being picked up by the camera lens. I imagine if you spent a bit more money on a proper setup, then you wouldn't need this, but as it stands, yeah, it turns out you do, and unfortunately, mine keeps falling down and I have to always fix it so you can't see it in the picture. It's a bit of a pain in the arse, but hey, at least it works. Secondly, because of the size of this setup, the flippy out screen of my camera is no longer visible, which is a bit of a problem. This means that I can't accurately frame my beautiful visage or see any of the important details that I need to whilst filming myself, such as whether or not the camera's actually recording, which, believe it or not, is something that I've overlooked in the past. Now, one of the big reasons that I got this particular camera, and the other ones that I've got here, are because they've got articulating screens. So with this setup, I was at risk of effectively just replacing one problem with another one. Luckily, the A7 Mark IV has got a full-sized HDMI output on the side, and so I'm able to take a video feed directly from the camera and run it into my laptop via an HDMI capture card so that I could get a preview. I just load up OBS, and I already had all that stuff anyway for my video art, so it wasn't, you know, an additional expense or anything. That saved the day for me, but it's something which wouldn't be as straightforward necessarily with other camera models like the ZV-10 or whatever. They don't have the full-sized HDMI port on them, so that's something to be aware of as well. Anyway, once all of the physical setup is completed, the next consideration that you're going to have to contend with is how you're going to display the words on the screen. You can't just whack up a Google Doc on your tablet because you need the ability to flip the text so that it displays the right way around when it's on the glass. There are various teleprompter apps available depending on the platform that you're using, and whilst the Kindle store is generally pretty shite, I did find one that did the trick nicely for a couple of quid, and that's what I've been using. Now I can write up my script in advance and simply copy and paste it into the teleprompter app ready to go. When I'm recording, I set the size of the text and the speed of the scrolling to match my natural pace, and off we go. In practice, I've got to say that I've found this setup to be so much more effective than anything I've tried out before now. Being able to just look directly down the lens, straight at the words that I've written out, has transformed my experience of recording videos, which in all honesty was becoming a bit of a chore. Now it feels so much easier and more natural, not to mention reducing the amount of time that I have to spend editing out all of the crappy takes in between. So if you suggested trying this out, thank you very much. I wish I'd done it a long time ago. Now, whilst autocue has been great for me, it won't necessarily be the best option for everybody. Something I've realised over recording hundreds of these videos at this point is that my strength lies in writing rather than speaking off the cuff all of the time. And so being able to take the time to think about how I want to express myself in the way that is best suited to my strengths, and then giving life to that in real time, works extremely well. To be clear, even when I'm using this teleprompter, I'm still ad-libbing and feel able to converse in an organic manner. I don't have to stick rigidly to what is on the screen, but I'm also aware that this is something of a skill that not everybody will necessarily be comfortable with. For other folks, the idea of having any type of script probably seems completely stifling, and that's totally fine as well. It just means that this particular method isn't right for you. So we'll see how I get on with this setup, but so far it has been a dramatic improvement, and I've been using it for the last few videos that I've uploaded. This will hopefully mean that I can focus on making more of the types of videos that I want to, and less time repeating or editing out terrible takes over and over and over again. If what I've been describing resonates with you, and you're someone that struggles with recording videos for similar reasons, then I would definitely recommend checking out even just a cheap autocue. Of course, it could well be that you think I'm completely shite at all of this anyway, even with an autocue, and if that is the case, then perhaps it's not a great idea after all. You can decide.